for 10 minutes.
Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, has just ordered that the bell be rung for 10 minutes. This is according to the standing order of the House, that when the House lacks the requisite quorum for business to begin at each and every sitting, the bell will be rung for 10 minutes to allow members who are yet to report to the chambers to be able to walk into the chambers and join the rest of the members to start the particular business. This is the first sitting in this 6th session of the 12th Parliament, after the House managed to approve the list of names of the House Business Committee on the 2nd of February 2022, thereby paving way for House business to take shape. And this morning there are about 19 procedural motions that will be guiding on how the House business will be carried on throughout this 6th session. So according to Standing Order 35, which talks about the quorum during the proceeding of the House, is that if at any time after the chair is taken or when the House is in committee, a member object that there is no quorum present, then the Speaker or the chairperson shall count the House or the committee, as the case may be. If on the count under paragraph 1 a quorum does not appear to be present, the Speaker or the chairperson shall call for the bell to be rung for 10 minutes, and if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 5 minutes. And if there is still no quorum present, the Speaker shall adjourn the House forthwith to the next sitting. So members are slowly trickling into the chambers. Today's business for the morning session was set to start at around 9:30, but the requisite quorum, which is 50 members, is not present as we speak now, forcing the Speaker to invoke Standing Order 34, calling for the bell to be rung for 10 minutes for members to be able to walk in. There is a procedural motion on the limitation of debate on motions. This one is moved by the Leader of Majority Party, that the House orders each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner: a maximum of 3 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for each other member speaking, except the Leader of the Majority Party and the Leader of Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that a priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader of the Majority Party, the Leader of the Minority Party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee. The bell is being rung for 10 minutes. This is to allow members who are not yet in the House to walk into the House, to enable the House start on its business. There is a full entry for the House during this 6th session. Remember, it's one of the sessions that is going to be short and that members need to actually make plans to enable them dispense with a number of bills that are yet to be cleared in the course of this 12th Parliament calendar. Some of the legislation to be considered, which might be given priority, is the budget estimates for 2022-2023 financial year. There is also the Children Rights Bill. We also have the Blood Transfusion Bill, among others, which members say that need to be considered as fast as possible before the 6th session ends. There is also a procedural motion on a limitation of debate on committee reports, again moved by the leader of Majority Party, that the House orders each speech in a debate on committee reports, except for reports on audit committees, including a report of a joint committee of the House of Parliament or any other report submitted to the House. For each limitation of time has not been specified shall be limited. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the chairperson of the relevant committee. Except for the leader of the Majority Party and the leader of the Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the Majority Party and the leader of the Minority Party in that order. Members are slowly trickling into the chambers. A bell has been ordered to be rung for 10 minutes to enable members who are not in the House yet to trickle into the chambers to enable the House attain its requisite number of 50 members for the business to kick off. This is the first session of the 6th session of the 12th Parliament. We are hoping that the number will be achieved for the business of the House to kick off. A procedural motion on the limitation of debate on reports of audit committees will also be moved this morning by the leader of the Majority Party, detailing how each speech in debate on reports of the audit committees will be done, time limitations, and the members who will be given priority to talk on those particular issues. Another procedural motion is on the limitation of debate on sessional papers, again indicating how much time each speech in a debate of any sessional paper will be allocated. Members, as you can see, at the entrance of the chambers are now walking in to join the others who have already taken their seats at the chamber for this morning's business. 19 procedural motions are lined up for consideration on the floor of the House this morning that will be moved by the leader of the majority party.
Members, we still do not have.
There is
we have not raised the
a
right
procedural
numbers.
motion again on the limitation of the
I
bill.
will, using the same standing orders, give an additional 5 minutes. An additional 5 minutes. And as you know, honourable members, that will be the last number of minutes that we'll be able to give as per our standing orders.
Well, the requisite number for the House business has not yet been achieved. After the lapse of 10 minutes, when the first bell was ordered to be rung, this is according to Standing Order number 34 on the quorum at the commencement of the House, that if there is no quorum present when the chair is taken at the time appointed for a meeting of the House, immediately after the saying of that prayer for opening of the sitting, the Speaker shall order the bell be rung for 10 minutes. And if no quorum is present at the expiration of the 10 minutes, the Speaker may direct that the bell be rung for a further 5 minutes. So this is this second round when the bell is being rung, at least to give time for members to walk into the chambers. Remember, the House business cannot begin unless the House achieves a requisite number, that is 50 members, for the House business to kick off. This is the first sitting after the House on Wednesday approved a list of the House Business Committee, which now paves way for business to pick up at the chambers. Earlier on, we saw the Chief Whip, Emmanuel Wangwe, who is also the MP for Navaholo, stepping out to whip members to the chambers. He was at the entrance, but members were not in, and we saw him step out. He is now back. You can see him at the entrance, but this is the second round of the bell being rung. As you can see, he is at the entrance, hoping that he will be able to whip members to the chamber. Remember, this is the first sitting, and business needs to kick off. There is a lot of legislation that is before the House that needs to be handled in the shortest time possible, as members have very limited time to conclude on a number of this legislation. That will enable the country pick up on very important and critical issues of national interest, such as the budget estimates for the financial year 2022-2023. So what is happening now is that the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly has ordered for the bell to be rung for a further 5 minutes after the lapse of 10 minutes on the first round, when the bell was rung for 10 minutes. But according to Standing Order 34, is that if there is no quorum still present at the end or other lapse of the 5 minutes, the Speaker shall adjourn the House forthwith to the next sitting. So this is a crucial moment for the House at this first sitting of the 6th session, when the House is supposed to work on important legislation on matters that will be affecting the general public. Kieni Member of Parliament Kanini Kega has also stepped into the chambers. Remember, the bell is being rung for 5 minutes. This morning session was scheduled to begin at 9:30. It's now 49 past 9. We are waiting to see if the House will raise the numbers, or if the Deputy Speaker, who is chairing this morning session, if he will adjourn it until this afternoon. This will be according to Standing Order number 34, which gives those powers to the Speaker in case the House does not attain the requisite number for the House business to be able to take place. 19 procedural motions are before the floor of the House this morning. These are some of the the considerations that members will be putting some effort into, so as to enable the House fully get into operation. Honorable Michael Kingi has also walked into the chambers. 20 minutes have lapsed after the beginning of the session. Around 9:30 is when the Speaker, or rather the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, walked into the chambers. The first round of ten minutes for the bell to be rung to allow members to walk into the chambers has lapsed. We are now into the second round of around 5 minutes. We are hoping that the House will attain its number, or perhaps the Deputy Speaker will be forced to adjourn the House. Procedural motion on the limitation of debate on the address by the President, which is also lined up for consideration this morning and will be moved by the Leader of Majority Party, is that the House orders that the debate on the motion of the address by the President, members are walking in. That the House orders that the debate on the motion of the address by the President be limited to no more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving. 20 minutes.
When the gracious lady comes in, we are good to go. Yes, so let's proceed. We now have the quorum.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions. Order number 5, papers.
Under this particular order, we have a series of papers to lay by the majority leader, majority whip.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 2nd, 2022, this morning sitting. Report of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30th June 2021 and the certificates therein. A. National Urban Transport Improvement Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. B. Kenol, Sagana, Marua Highway Improvement Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. C. Improvement of rural roads and market infrastructure in Western Kenya projects, Kenya Rural Roads Authority. D. Upgrading of Gilgil Machinery Road Project, Kenya Rural Roads Authority. E. Eastern Africa Regional Transportation Trade and Development Facilitation Project, State Department for Infrastructure. F. Horn of Africa Gateway Development Project, State Department for Infrastructure. G. Nairobi Missing Links Road and Non-Motorized Transport Facilities, Kenya Urban Roads Authority. H. Nairobi Outer Ring Road Improvement Project, Kenya Urban Roads Authority. I. Support to the attainment of Vision 2030 through devolved land reforms in Community Land of Kenya Project, National Land Commission. J. Water and Sanitation Services Improvement Projects, Lake Victoria Water Works Development Authority. K. Africa Center of Excellence, SCE2, in phytochemicals, textiles, and renewable energy, Moi University. I. L. Regional roads components, Merile Marsabit Road, KE/00/09 Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. M. Mombasa Nairobi Addis Ababa Road Corridor Development Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. N. Kenya Water Security and Climate Resilience Project, Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. Or Kenya South Sudan Link Road Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. P. Regional Mombasa Port Access Road Project, Kenya National Highways Authority. Q. Northern Collector Phase 1, Additional Rehabilitation and Development of the Network Project at the Waterworks Development Agency. R. Water and Sanitation Development Project, Ministry of Water, Sanitation and Irrigation. S. Nairobi Water Distribution Network Project at the Waterworks Development Agency. T. Kimira Aluch Smallholder Farm Improvement Project, State Department for Regional and Northern Corridor Development. U. COVID-19 Emergency Response Project, Ministry of Health. V. Support to Water and Sanitation Services in Peri-Urban Area Project at the Waterworks Development Agency. And W. Kenya Urban Support Program, Kisii Municipality. 2. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30 June 2020 and the certificates therein. A. Kenya Law Reform Commission. B. Kenya School of Law. C. Agrochemical and Food Company Limited. D. Council of Legal Education. E. Water Sector Trust Fund. F. Turkana University College. G. Water Service Regulatory Board. H. Kenya Maritime Authority. I. Karatina University. J. Anti-Doping Agency of Kenya. K. Kenya Maritime Authority Staff Mortgage and Car Loan Scheme. L. Nyeri National Polytechnic. M. National Crime Research Center. And N. Council of Legal Education. 3. Reports of the Auditor General and financial statements in respect of the following institutions for the year ended 30 June 2019 and the certificates therein. A. Kenya Civil Aviation Authority. B. Turkana University College. C. Mathia Technical and Vocational College. D. Makueni County Sand Conservation and Utilization Authority. E. Naivasha Technical and Vocational College. And finally, F. MSOS Technical and Vocational College. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Leader of Majority Party. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion. That pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 28, this House approves the calendar of the National Assembly regular sessions for the 6th session 2022. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Very well. And we go to the next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
Under this particular order, we have just a minute. Afternoon. Next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, limitation of debate on bills sponsored by parties or committees.
Now, honorable members, please look at this particular order and almost 8 others. It's good for you members to familiarize yourselves so that we don't need to take a lot of time in it, because it's basically setting out our mode of engagement for the remainder of this session. It is something that happens all the time at the beginning of a session. So just familiarize yourself, because I'm sure the Leader of Majority will be moving pretty fast. Honorable Serem, what can possibly be out of order now?
Mr. Speaker.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. I'm raising on point of order, Mr. Speaker, that the Whip and the Leader Majority are discussing about the agenda that touches on this session. Mr. Speaker, our children, as we talk, are at home, Mr. Speaker, for lack of bursaries, Mr. Speaker. The CDA board has also received the funds for our constituencies, Mr. Speaker. I don't want to have a situation like what happened in the last session, Mr. Speaker, that I rose on this floor, Mr. Speaker, and I told that there will be no budget in this house unless the funds are released to our constituents. I want clearance from the Leader Majority that we are going to be given CDF before we discuss about supplementary. Otherwise, we will shut down that supplementary, Mr. Speaker, unless the funds are given to us. Mr. Speaker, I have a concern. We are mature. We are discussing about a limitation and limitation of our debate, Mr. Speaker, while our kids are at home. Why are we discussing about even the future of this house, while the children that were supposed to be occupying this house in the next 10 years are in the villages?
You know,
Mr. Speaker, as you discussed,
okay.
I'm getting what you're saying, Mr. Speaker, but it's not fair.
No,
that
I say, you know, Honorable Serem, I've not even said anything, but you're already saying you are getting what I'm saying. Now, the issue is, Honorable Serem, you're actually a member of the Select Committee on National Government Development Fund. I would have thought actually you would be reporting and telling us when we are going to have this money. Now, when you send it to the Majority Leader, he becomes a member of the National Assembly as far as the NGCDF is concerned. Now, you have raised a very critical issue, which I'm sure, and you can see the mood in the House, is such that it is very supportive of your position. But I would have wished it is raised in a better manner so that we can have results quickly. Because Honorable Serem, really, this what we are doing today is normal, and it's something that is done all the time. Never mind the fact that there are issues. I wanted actually now to give the Majority Leader to probably see how he can be able to push it himself, now that you have actually said that you want him to speak to it. I think that's the better way, because you have actually raised. So maybe Majority Leader, you can have some input into this one, so that we don't take too much time on it. I really do not want, if we open it to members, maybe I could give 2. No, don't. I could give to the Honorable Ferdinand. Honorable Ferdinand. No, honorable members. I'm giving only 2 members, and then I give the.
Mr. Speaker, I am in that committee of CDF.
You are also in the committee.
No, I'm just adding to what he has said. On a serious note, we are discussing in this house, while back at home, contractors that we actually have engaged have downed their tools. Our students don't have the bursaries. Mr. Speaker, I think it's only fair that the leader of the majority consults now and tells us exactly what is happening. We just can't be here comfortably and back at home. For me, for example, Mr. Speaker, just to add what Mheshimiwa Terema said, I have 4 contractors who have down the tools because I've already been paid. What do I do? And they see me here contributing on other national items that are not relevant to my people that actually send me this house. And therefore, I want to concur with Honorable Serem that something be done today and now, so they can be able to move forward and we have a comfort to tell our people what is happening.
Honorable Dawood.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, having voted for the political party's bill and voting with the government, I feel ashamed today because we cannot get our CDF, Mr. Speaker. 4.9 billion from the last financial year, we still haven't received it. And Mr. Speaker, we need to get the other...
Order, Honorable Dawood, I'll give you your time. I see the chair of CDF standing at the alleys. I think he should take his seat. Probably some of these things involve him more than even the majority leader. Yeah, so... The chairman general has just come in, so let him take his seat. So proceed, Honorable Dawood. That's all I wanted him to do, so that he can listen to some of your concerns.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we know we are only the patrons for CDF, but you know when we go to the constituency, we are not known as patrons, we are known as we are the managers for CDF. And when we do not get the CDF and the schools and other infrastructure are falling apart, it is the MP who gets the flake. And unless the CDF committee of this parliament does not get its act together, half of us, we may not be back in parliament because this is the most critical time. And I believe the chairman and his committee need to wake up, because they cannot be, they should call a kamukunji if there is an issue that they cannot get through. And we will not pass the supplementary budget if we do not get that CDF, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Only that you said half of you will not come back. When history tells us it is slightly more than what you've just said, never mind whether the CDF issue is there or not. Let's have the chair. I mean, I know members want to really. Okay, Honorable Dr. Makali Mulu, then I pick one other member from this other side.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your consideration. You know, Mr. Speaker, this matter is a serious matter. And I know the majority leader and the whip are also in our shoes. So, Mr. Speaker, even as we discuss these procedural motions which are important also for us to do our work, I would really wish that the majority leader working closely with the chair of the committee, who also happens to be the leader of the DAP party, Mr. Speaker, I think it's work very fast, move to Treasury, negotiate for release of more funds so that the contractors and our students go back to school. Before we give ultimatums, I think if they just release the money, we have no problem. We just want the money to our accounts so that our managers and our committees can work. With that, those remarks, Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. We hope the money will be there tomorrow. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Kiai.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Speaker, CDF is the lifeline of any member of parliament. And the situation we find ourselves in is that we are not able to pay the contractors who are doing diverse projects in our constituencies. Mr. Speaker, it is a critical time when CDF must be seen to be functioning on the ground. And it is the only tool, one of the best tools that members of parliament use to ensure that they relate with the people down there. So it's in order that the majority leader, the chair of CDF committee, ensure that this money is released before anything else is discussed in this parliament. Not to mention that the students are at home waiting for this bursary. Thank you.
Okay. So then I go to the chair CDF. Let's have, I'm sure you now know what is happening. So I'm sure, and I know you are one person who has all these answers at the fingertips.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And first, my apologies. I came in a little late because I was involved in other important national duties. Mr. Speaker, as confirmed, one who is confirmed. Mr. Speaker, the question of CDF funds is such an important one that doesn't just touch on the hearts of members of parliament, but the people in our constituencies, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, you will recall that in our last report, we did indicate that we had received up to 50% of this financial year's funding. That is 20 billion out of the 41 billion, Mr. Speaker. We also reported that there was some arrears amounting to 4.9 billion, which this House had resolved after we reported that the funds had not been received. This House resolved that these funds should be captured in the supplementary budget that is coming, Mr. Speaker. Our committee on implementation, Mr. Speaker, raised the matter with the Cabinet Secretary for Treasury for implementation of that House resolution. And also we raised with the Budget Committee for this to be captured in the supplementary budget that will soon be before the House, Mr. Speaker. Now, given the supplementary budget is coming before us, I am sure if this arrears will be captured, this should be able to be settled immediately the budget is passed, Mr. Speaker. Now, the question of the funds for this financial year, since we are now in the third quarter, yesterday I had a meeting with the committee, Mr. Speaker, and it was reported to us that only 2 billion had been received.
What's your point of order, Honorable?
For the third quarter.
What is out of order? Just a minute, the Chair.
Yes. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. With all due respect to Honorable Amunyinyi, who is the party leader of DAP Kenya, he made a statement to say that if, I don't know why Honorable Rachel Nyamoy is clapping, he made a statement that if the budget, the CDF money, which is the arrears, is captured on the supplementary. You know, when you use the word if, Honorable Speaker, it means he's not sure whether it is there. Could he confirm to this House and the nation at large that the CDF, because you know you can't, as a party leader, you need to be having information at the fingertips. Could you confirm to this House and the nation at large whether the CDF arrears is in the current supplementary budget? Because that is what the House passed in your report, which you tabled in this House, and that's what we expect today.
All right.
Thank you.
I really don't think you need to. I don't think you need to throw it too much also on the chair, CDF, because this is a document that has been tabled, so which Honorable Pukosa and others can also have a look at it and probably have it confirmed. Proceed. Just proceed if you have. Now let the chair proceed. You have just had your say, the honourable member for. No, out of order. Proceed, Chairman General.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did confirm, Mr. Speaker, that this House passed a resolution that the arrears which had not been released by the Treasury should be captured, in the supplementary budget which is coming. Mr. Speaker, I am aware that the implementation committee of this House raised this issue with the Treasury, with the Cabinet Secretary himself. the budget committee of this House, which is responsible, Mr. Speaker, is also seized with this matter. And I am sure, because the House resolved that this should be, captured, this is part of what will be brought before the House. And once the House passes that budget committee, the budget, supplementary budget, then the constituencies should be given the arrears that is due. Mr. Speaker, I was explaining the question of this year's funding. I said that we had received up to 50%, amounting to 20 billion. And Mr. Speaker, for the third quarter, we have received 2 billion. In yesterday's meeting, which we had, we resolved to ask the Cabinet Secretary, the CS Treasury, to appear before us next week on Tuesday, just to explain when he is going to complete the disbursement of funds for this financial year. And I'm sure we should be able, Mr. Speaker, after that to report to this House, the progress that would have been made. But so far, we have 2 billion, which I said, if that was released to the constituencies, it will be a small amount, like up to 5-6 million. So we asked them to wait. So, Mr. Speaker, it is important. I agree. I'm also a member representing a constituency. And I need the funds for bursaries. I need funds to complete projects. I need funds for all good reasons, Mr. Speaker. So we will be pursuing this as a committee. And as chair, of course, I have undertaken. Members can confirm that we have all in the past received these funds. Even the arrears that was built up from the past years, we were able to secure the same. So
now,
Mr. Speaker, let me say this, Mr. Speaker, as I conclude. I know Honorable Bukose and the member irritated there. These are members that are really feeling the weight of DAPK, Mr. Speaker. Particularly the UDA is really feeling it. And that is why, but for funds, we'll make sure these funds are released, Mr. Speaker. I thank you very much.
Order members. It's good for me to know whether the excitement is about the DAP or is about the CDF. Now, if it's about CDF, please let's stick. So, what is it, the Honorable Iringo? What is your point of order? And I'm winding it up. Honorable Iringo? Honorable Iringo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for Kadui, who is the chair to the CDF committee, is trying to digress, bringing in party matters here, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, more so, he is talking of 50%, which according to me, shut up. According to me, Mr. Speaker, we have received less than that percent. Unless, Mr. Speaker, let me conclude, please. Unless this money is disbursed in a skewed way, so that there are some who have got 50, others have got 30. No. Let it be put here on the table and see it. Let it be tabled here, so that if there are some...
Order. Take your seat, Honorable Iringo. Now, I do not think anybody would blame the member for Kandui for bringing the DAP issue to the House, because many of the members who spoke before actually provoked it. The Honorable Bukose himself, I actually was not so sure what the DAP we were talking about was, whether it's a party or it is a fertilizer. But now when Honorable Bukose raises it, I mean, honestly, you have provoked the member. But let's now go back. Take your seat, Honorable. No, I will not. I will not allow you, Dr. Bukose. Members also must be fair to each other. You cannot speak all the time and other members are sitting listening. Now, but members, most importantly, let us respect and have decorum in the House. The Honorable Iringo, I gave you an opportunity. If there is anybody whom you thought is interfering with the free flow of your speech, it's easier for you to deal with that particular issue through the chair, through the speaker. You cannot shut any member because you have no power to do that. It's only one person, unfortunately, in the House who has that power, and that is myself, the speaker for now. So please, Honorable, you cannot take powers that you do not have. So that one, I would have asked you to withdraw, but it did not go on record, I'm sure. Because if it did, you actually need to withdraw it. Shutting up any member is not good. All right. So I think the matter is resolved. What I want us to do is to agree, if I were to give the majority leader, but most importantly, let us have timelines so that when you have your meeting next week on Tuesday, that Tuesday afternoon, you report to the House the progress. I think that will resolve the matter. Yeah? So Tuesday is 1 week from now. That is 7 days. Don't need to wait for the meeting. You can resolve some of the things prior to the meeting. Then on Tuesday, you come with some report, and I'm sure the members will be happy with it. I know, Chair, you have done well. So we really have to say that you've done well. We are sure you will still do well. I don't think we need to trouble the majority leader on this. He has a handful this morning. So let's proceed to the next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion, limitation of debate on bills sponsored by parties or committees.
Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move the following procedural motion, that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97, paragraph 4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bill sponsored by a committee, the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party be limited as follows: a maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them, and a priority in speaking be accorded to the leader of majority party, leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Honorable Speaker, as you did indicate, these are all procedural motions that we set, that set basically the manner in which we are going to conduct our debates, our sessions, and the respective times accorded to the different people in contributing to those motions. And I expect that we'll be able to pass all these things without undue delay. I beg to move and ask the Honorable Rachel Nyamai to second.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
And so I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in debate on bill sponsored by a committee, the leader of majority party and the leader of majority party or leader of minority party be limited as follows. Maximum was 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. Maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except leader of majority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them. And priority in speaking be accorded to leader of majority party and leader of minority party and chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. So I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in debate on bill sponsored by a committee, the majority leader, and the leader of minority party be limited as follows. A maximum of 45 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. A maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee if the bill is not sponsored by the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except leader of majority party and leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each if the bill is not sponsored by either of them. And the priority in speaking will be accorded to the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, procedural motion, limitation of debate on individual members' bills.
Leader Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of study order number 97-4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bills not sponsored by a committee, the Leader Majority Party or the Leader Minority Party, be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the Leader Majority Party and the Leader Minority Party, which shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and a priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader Majority Party and the Leader Minority Party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I just want to highlight this. Now, this relates to the individual members' bills, for which there's quite a number. They have a limitation of 3 hours and 30 minutes, but I just want to encourage members, because we only have so few Wednesdays, that at the commencement, before the commencement of debate, members will be at liberty to move a motion to limit this further to in terms of the time or even the amount of time each member can take to speak, so that we can process many bills of many of the private members' bills. We suffered the misfortune of so many of them lapsing because they don't have the time. Now, given between now and the time which will become clear when we approve the calendar this afternoon, we have very few Wednesdays. Indeed, I think for this session, this mini session, we have only 4 more Wednesdays. So maximum of 4 bills. Yet we have in the pipeline about 20 bills. But just wanted to highlight that for members, especially those with bills, who need to be assisted by other members to limit the debate so that we can process them further. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and ask the Honorable Dr. Nyikal to second.
Mr. Speaker, I second.
So I propose a question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in debate on bills not sponsored by committee, Leader Majority Party or Leader Minority Party be limited as follows. Maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the Leader Majority Party and Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. That priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party, and the chairperson of the departmental committee in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on bill not sponsored by the committee, the Leader Majority Party and the Leader Minority Party be limited as follows. A maximum of 3 hours and 30 minutes, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes each for any member speaking, except the Leader Majority Party and the Leader Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. And that priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader Majority Party, the Leader Minority Party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, procedural motion, limitation of debate on motions.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for each other member speaking, except the Leader of the Majority Party and the Minority Party, which shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. And at 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader of the Majority Party, the Leader of the Minority Party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Again, The rationale is the same, and this is consistent with what we have been doing. I beg to move, and I ask the Honorable Dr. Eseli to second.
I second.
So I propose the question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited in the following manner. A maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for each member speaking, except the leader majority party and leader minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and the 10 minutes before expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader minority party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I see no interest in this, so I proceed to put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any motion, including a special motion, be limited as follows. Maximum of 3 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover and 10 minutes for each other member speaking, except the leader majority party and the leader minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and the leader minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 11, procedural motion, limitation of debate on committee reports.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on committee reports, except for reports on audit committees, including a report of a joint committee of the Houses of Parliament or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time shall not be specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, except the leader of majority party and leader of minority party shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and at 10 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. And further, the priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of the minority party in that order. Again, Honorable Speaker, this is fairly standard, except I just want to highlight that there's a slight change from the last time, the last session, where now the leader of majority party and minority party have an extra 5 minutes because it became quite clear that there were issues that may need to be highlighted from the leadership perspective in terms of responses for matters coming from the committee reports. That's the only change from last time, and I beg to move and request the Honorable Dr. Makalimuli to second.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I do second. Thank you.
So I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on committee reports, except for reports of audit committees, including reports of joint committees of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time shall not be specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, except the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on committee reports, except reports of audit committees, including a report of joint committee of the Houses of Parliament, or any other report submitted to the House for which limitation of time has not been specified, shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes in for any other member speaking, including the chairperson of the relevant committee if the committee report is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee, except the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, procedural motion, limitation of debate on reports of audit committees.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of audit committees, that is the PIC, the PAC, and the SFAC, that's Public Investments Committee, Public Accounts Committee, and the Special Funds Audit Committee, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes, and that priority be accorded to the leader of majority and the minority party in that order. And I just want to highlight again, Honourable Speaker, that for these audit committee reports, because of the oversight role of the House, there's no limitation in terms of the time that these reports will be debated, because you don't want to limit members' right to oversight and to contributing to better governance and accountability, because houses exist for purposes of ensuring that their funds are taken care of. That's the only distinction between the reports of the audit committees vis-a-vis the other committees who have a limitation in terms of the number of hours a report to be debated. Honourable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honourable Tiren to second.
Thank you very much, Leader Majority. I do second.
Very well. So then I propose a question which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of audit committees, which is PIC, PAC, and SFAC, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying. A maximum of 10 minutes for each other member speaking, except the leader of majority party and leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority party and leader of minority party in that order. Who is this member who has put up her hand? Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And first, I want to take this opportunity to really thank the leader of majority for putting it clearly, particularly on audit reports, being a house that is an oversight, and that's our one of the key roles and mandate of this house. I feel it is very important that there will be no limitation on the debate on audit reports, and that is key and very important. So I would like just again to congratulate the leader of majority for putting records of this house very straight and to respect the mandate and the role of this house. Thank you so much.
And on that note, I put the question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on report of audit committees, PIC, PAC, and SFAC, be limited as follows. A maximum of 60 minutes for the mover in moving and 30 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader, majority, and minority parties, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and priority shall be accorded to the leader, majority, and leader, minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 13, procedural motion, limitation of debate on sessional papers.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any session of paper shall be limited as follows. A maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee. If the session of paper is not moved by the chairperson of the relevant committee, that 10 minutes before the expiry of that time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, the priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of majority and the leader of minority party in that order. Again, this is consistent with what we had previously, and no change, and would encourage the committees that are handling sessional papers to actually bring them in, because sessional papers are the basis on which then the government policies evolve and the laws are enacted. And we've not been having quite a bit of that, but I do hope in the remaining part we will process all the ones in the pipeline. I beg to move and request the Honorable Atandi to second.
Honorable Atandi.
Honorable Speaker, I second.
Very well, then on that note, I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on any sessional paper shall be limited as follows. Maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes in the mover moving, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and leader of minority party, and chairperson of relevant committee, if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of that relevant committee. That 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and leader minority party in that order. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on sessional paper shall be limited as follows. Maximum of 2.5 hours, with not more than 20 minutes for the mover in moving and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of majority party and leader of minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee, if the sessional paper is not moved by the chairperson of that committee. And that 10 minutes before expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and leader minority party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 14, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the address by the President.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, and in furtherance to the provisions of Standing Order number 24.6, this House orders that debate on a motion on the address by the President be limited to no more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving, 20 minutes for the leader of the majority party, and 10 minutes each for the chairperson of the Department or Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak on the report submitted under Article 132, 1C1 of the Constitution regarding the realization of the national values, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak on the report submitted under Article 131, 21C3 of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of the security of the country, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of that time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Honorable Speaker, this relates to the annual State of the Nation address or any other address that the President may wish to do in the House, and I do hope that we shall have the pleasure of having this before this session ends. And I beg to move and ask Deputy Whip of the Majority Party, the Honorable Marco Maure, to second.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to second.
So then I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97.4, in furtherance of provisions of Standing Order 24.6, this House orders that debate on motion on the address by the President be limited to not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving, 20 minutes for the leader of minority party, and 10 minutes each for the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak on the report submitted under Article 132(1)(c) Roman 1 of the Constitution relating to the realization of national values, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak on reports submitted under Article 131(1)(c) Roman 3 of the Constitution relating to progress made in fulfillment of international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of security of the country, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, and that 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97(4) and in furtherance to the provisions of Standing Order 24(6), this House orders that the debate on the motions of the address by the President be limited to not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 20 minutes for the leader of minority party, and 10 minutes each for the chairperson of the Departmental Committees on Justice and Legal Affairs to speak on reports submitted under Article 132(1)(c) Roman 1 of the Constitution relating to the realization of national values, the chairperson of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations to speak on reports submitted under Article 132(1)(c) Roman 3 of the Constitution relating to the progress made in fulfilling the international obligations of the Republic, and the chairperson of the Departmental Committee in Administration and National Security to speak on the report submitted under Article 247 of the Constitution relating to the state of security of the country, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, and at 10 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? When as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 15, procedural motion, limitation of debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 97(4), this House orders that in each speech in debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices be limited as follows: a maximum of 4 hours, with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee, the leader of majority party and the leader of minority party, in that order. Again, members will notice the difference in the timings. This is 4 hours as opposed to the other committee, because the Constitution of 2010 gives some certain responsibilities to constitutional commissions and the independent offices, and we obviously, when they report with some mandate to report to the House, and we need to give slightly more time for their reports to be considered in the House as part of their accountability on their work to the Kenyan populace. Honourable Speaker, I beg to move and I request the Honourable Sophia Abdi to second.
Honourable Speaker, I second, and I just want to add one sentence, that constitutional commissions and independent office are very important and key to this country. And as a House, we always give them resources. So when they are reporting to this House, it is important that we give them adequate time so that we engage their reports. So it is very important. And once again, I want to say thank you so much, the leader of majority, and I second, Mr. Speaker.
Then I propose a question, which is that notwithstanding provisions of Standing Order 97(4), this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent offices be limited as follows: a maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes in the mover moving and 10 minutes in replying, a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and priority be accorded to chairperson of the relevant committee and the Leader Majority Party and Minority Party in that order. Honorable Foucault is back? Okay, so I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in debate on reports of constitutional commissions and independent officers be limited as follows. A maximum of 4 hours with not more than 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 10 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 30 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant committee, and a maximum of 10 minutes for any other member speaking, except the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority be accorded to the chairperson of the relevant committee and the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 16, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the annual estimates and committee of supply.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the budget estimates contemplated under Standing Orders 239 and 240 be limited as follows. 1. The general supply debate. A maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying. A maximum of 10 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking, except the Leader of Majority Party and the Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and the priority in speaking be accorded to the Leader of Majority Party, the Leader of Minority Party, and the respective chairpersons of the departmental committees in the order that they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And 2, in the Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for the consideration of the proposed allocation to the respective votes and programs in the order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Honourable Speaker, members will be I would want members to take note specifically of this, because we are already in the budget cycle. The departmental committees, I believe, are meeting, and that explains why most of the members are actually very busy out there with the departmental committee debating on the budget. And I do hope that hopefully by next week we may well have this report for the general supply for the budget policy statement. Once that is unlocked, then we get into the actual estimates coming in, and this motion will apply. So I just want members to take note so they can start prioritizing when knowing the amount of time they have and the manner in which they will be contributing. Because again, parliaments exist for allocating the funds and ensuring the accountability. Honourable Speaker, again, I know it's the 5th year, and I know a number of members are yet to familiarize themselves between what happens in the Committee of Supply and what happens in the Committee of Ways and Means and all those things. But the majority of the members, especially the ones who are here today, do already know what happens. I don't want to belabor the point. I want to beg to move and request the Honourable Martin Owino. I wouldn't call him his pseudonym, Wood Chief, but the Honourable Martin Owino to second.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Honourable Speaker, I second.
Very well. So then I propose a question which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that each speech in a debate on the report of Budget and Appropriation Committee on the budget estimates contemplated under Standing Order 239 and 240 be limited as follows. Roman 1, under the general supply debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, and a maximum of 10 minutes for each of the chairpersons of the departmental committee, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader majority party and leader minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and the leader minority party and the respective chairpersons of departmental committees in that order as they appear in the second schedule to the standing order. And Roman 2, Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for consideration of the proposed allocation to the respective votes and programs in order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. I put the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97-4, these House orders that each speech in a debate on the report of Budget and Appropriation Committee on budget estimates contemplated under Standing Order number 239 and 240 be limited as follows. Roman 1, the general debate, supply debate, a maximum of 3 sitting days with 30 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes in replying, a maximum of 10 minutes for each for the chairperson of the departmental committees, and a maximum of 5 minutes for any other member speaking except the leader majority party and leader minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 10 minutes each, and priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader majority party and leader minority party and respective chairpersons for the departmental committee in the order that they appear in the second schedule to the standing orders. And Roman 2, Committee of Supply, a maximum of 6 sitting days for consideration of proposed allocations to respective votes and programs in order specified in the schedule submitted by the Budget and Appropriation Committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 17, procedural motion, limitation of debate on the Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order number 97-1, this House orders that each speech in the general debate contemplated under Standing Order number 146, which relates to consideration of Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving, 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader of the majority party and the leader of the minority party, if the bill is not party sponsored. And that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, and further that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the leader of the majority party, the leader of the minority party, and the chairperson of the relevant committee in that order. And members will notice that the debates on this is actually limited to 1.5 hours, on the understanding that a bill will have been processed through the National Assembly, passed, taken to the Senate. So if there's any changes or whatever they make, that's really the only matters we would be debating rather than the entire bill, and hence the limitation of that time. Honorable Speaker, I beg to move and request the Honorable Ochanda to second. He's a good host. He hosted me in Siaya.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I think I beg to second, Mr. Speaker, and it's important that these bills that are generated from the Senate, particularly generated from us to the Senate and back to us, needs to be given the amount of space that is given by the Majority Leader. I second, Mr. Speaker.
Whatever you did to the Majority Leader in Siaya, but I propose the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that speech in general debate contemplated under Standing Order 146, which is consideration of the Senate amendment to bills originating in the National Assembly, be limited as follows. A maximum of 1 hour 30 minutes with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes for the chairperson of the departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member speaking, including the leader majority party and minority party, if the bill is not party sponsored, and that 5 minutes before the expiry of the time, the mover shall be called upon to reply, And further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party and the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee in that order. I put the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97-1, this House orders that each speech in general debate contemplated under Standing Order 146, which is consideration of the Senate amendment bills, to bills originating in the National Assembly be limited as follows: a maximum of 1 hour and 30 minutes, with not more than 15 minutes for the mover in moving and 15 minutes for the chairperson of the relevant departmental committee, and 5 minutes for any other member, including the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party, if the bill is not party sponsored, and that 5 minutes before the expiry of time, the mover shall be called upon to reply. Further, that priority in speaking shall be accorded to the Leader Majority Party and Leader Minority Party, and the chairperson of the departmental committee, the relevant departmental committee in that order. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. When as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 18, procedural motion, limitation of debate for a motion on sine die adjournment.
Members must be very keen on listening to this one. Leader Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of the Standing Order 97-4, this House orders that the debate on any motion for the sine die adjournment of the House, in accordance with the calendar of the House, shall be limited as follows: a maximum of 4 hours for the entire motion, with not more than 5 minutes for each member speaking, except for the mover, the Leader of the Majority Party, and the Leader of the Minority Party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority shall be accorded to the Leader of the Majority Party, the Leader of the Minority Party, and the Deputy Speaker in that order, and further that at the expiry of the time allocated for the motion, the House shall adjourn without question put, pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 28-3 that erases the calendar of the House. Honorable Speaker and members will note that we are in that final phase. This being the last session, at some point after we approve the calendar this afternoon, we will see when this motion will kick in, which is basically the motion for members to say their farewells and members to summarize the activities that they have been doing for the last 5 years and to make the last pitch to their electorate before the final decision day in August. So it's a very important motion, and I would want to ask the members, start preparing those pitches so that on that day you have your 5 minutes to summarize what you've done, say farewells to your colleagues, and make the pitch to your electorate in terms of why they think you've done a good job and you need to come back. So it's a very important motion, and we've allocated a House Business Committee, did deliberate and allocated the whole 4 hours, 5 minutes, and after that, then basically we'll walk out, shake hands, and hope to meet again in the next session. I know the Speaker did mention that the attrition rate is rather high, so we hope perhaps with this motion we could also limit part of that attrition rate from the historical 70% to something much palatable, like was said earlier, 50%, and hopefully progress it to better in future. So I beg to move and request the Honorable Sarah Korere to second.
Honorable Pauleta.
Thank you, Speaker. The Speaker is second. And on this, I think it is a very well thought idea, because members need to set pace as they even go out to look for votes. I second. Thank you.
So then, therefore, I propose a question which is a provision, pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97-4. This House orders that the debate on any motion for the sine die adjournment of the House, in accordance with the calendar of the House, shall be limited as follows: maximum of 4 hours for the entire motion, with not more than 5 minutes for each member speaking, except the mover, and the mover, the leader of majority party, the leader of minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each, and that priority shall be accorded to the leader of majority, the leader of minority, and the deputy speaker in that order, and further that at the expiry of time allocated for the motion, the House shall adjourn without question put pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 28.3, which is calendar of the House. I put the question, which is that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 97.4, this House orders that debate on any motion for the synodal adjournment of the House in accordance with the calendar of the House shall be limited as follows: a maximum of 4 hours for the entire motion, with not more than 5 minutes each for the member speaking, except the mover, the leader majority party, and the leader minority party, who shall be limited to a maximum of 15 minutes each. That priority be accorded to the leader majority party, the leader minority party, and the deputy speaker in that order, and further that at the expiry of time allocated for the motion, the House shall adjourn without question being put, and that pursuant to provisions of Standing Order 28.3, which is calendar of the House. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 19, procedural motion. Consideration of certain business received during the recess period.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order number 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President or the National Executive, Standing Orders number 120, 122, and 126 relating to publication, procedure upon publication, and first reading of bills, and Standing Order number 210-2 relating to the tabling of statutory instrument. This House orders that during the short and long recesses of the 6th session, 1. Upon any receipt of any message from the Senate, or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Number 2, upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate amendment to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule to the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 145, which relates to Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. Number 3, should a bill be published during the said period, or a published bill become due for first reading, the Speaker shall, upon lapse of at least 3 days following the publication of the bill, and following a determination that such bill is of priority, forthwith refer such bill to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 127, which relates to committal of bills to committees and public participation, and cause the bill to be read a first time upon its next sitting, and the second reading may be taken forthwith, or on such other day as the House Business Committee may determine. Number 4, should any statutory instrument be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination the statutory instrument is of priority, forthwith refer the statutory instrument to the relevant committee of the whole for consideration, and cause the statutory instrument to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of the Statutory Instrument Act number 3 of 2013. And lastly, number 5, should any paper be transmitted for tabling before the House, the Speaker shall, following a determination the paper is of priority, forthwith refer the paper to the relevant committee for consideration, and cause the paper to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting. Honourable Speaker and members will be aware that we might be expecting a couple of recesses, a short one, a long one, and depending on how we work on the calendar of the House, during those recesses, any business that comes, this motion, once approved, will guide the manner to be processed so that there is continuity even when the House is on recess. And the House Business Committee deliberates on this. We usually bring this motion just before going on recess. But we thought we might as well do it upfront, so that by the time we are going to the next recess, we don't have to then reconsider this motion unless there's any specific change to it that members would need to be approved. So that this now will cover all recesses that will take place during this sixth session, rather being brought as and when we are going on recess. And it's consistent with what we've been doing in the past. And I beg to move and request, I saw him, the Honorable Geshimo, to second.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second.
I propose the question that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President or the National Executive, Standing Orders 120, 122, and 126 relating to publication, procedure upon publication, and first reading of bills, and Standing Order 210, subsection 2, relating to tabling of statutory instruments, this House orders that during the short and long recesses of the sixth session, 1. Upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House, and report such fact to the House on resumption. 2. Upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate's amendments to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 145, Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. 3. Should a bill be published during the said period, or a published bill become due for first reading, the Speaker shall, upon lapse of at least 3 days following the publication of the bill and following a determination that such bill is of priority, forthwith refer such bill to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 127, committal of bills to committees and public participation, and cause the bill to be read a first time upon its next sitting, and the second reading may be taken forthwith or on such other day as the House Business Committee may determine. 4. Should any statutory instrument be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the statutory instrument is of priority, forthwith refer the statutory instrument to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the statutory instrument to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act number 3 of 2013, and should any paper 5. Should any paper be transmitted for tabling before the House, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the paper is of priority, forthwith refer the paper to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the paper to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting. Very well. Honorable members, I now put the question that, notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Orders 41 and 42 relating to conveying of messages from the Senate and from the President of the National Executive, Standing Orders 120, 122, and 126 relating to publication, procedure upon publication, and first reading of bills, and Standing Order 210-2 relating to tabling of statutory instruments, this House orders that during the short recess and long recesses of the sixth session, 1. Upon receipt of any message from the Senate or upon receipt of any name of a person nominated for appointment to a state or public office from the President or any other office in the National Executive, the Speaker shall forthwith refer such message to the relevant committee for consideration without having to recall the House and report such fact to the House on resumption. 2. Upon receipt of any message relating to the Senate's amendments to a bill originating in the National Assembly, the Speaker shall forthwith refer the schedule of the Senate amendments to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 145, Senate amendments to bills originating in the National Assembly, and report such fact to the House on resumption. 3. Should a bill be published during the said period, or a published bill become due for first reading, the Speaker shall, upon lapse of at least 3 days following the publication of the bill, and following a determination that such a bill is of priority, refer such bill to the relevant committee for consideration pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 127, Committal of Bills to Committees and Public Participation, and cause the bill to be read a first time upon its next sitting, and the second reading may be taken forthwith or on such other day as the House Business Committee may determine. 4. Should any statutory instrument be transmitted for tabling before the House during the period, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the statutory instrument is of priority, forthwith refer the statutory instrument to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the statutory instrument to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting in accordance with the provisions of Section 11 of the Statutory Instruments Act number 3 of 2013. And 5. Should any paper be transmitted for tabling before the House, the Speaker shall, following a determination that the paper is of priority, forthwith refer the paper to the relevant committee for consideration and cause the paper to be tabled in the House upon its next sitting. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Thank you, Honorable Dr. Pukose. Next question.
Order number 20, the Pensions Amendment Bill, National Assembly Bill number 26 of 2020, second reading.
Honorable members, this business had been transacted on the 10th of November 2021, and now there remains a balance of time for its consideration of 50 minutes. And I'll just read out quickly, because members have been away for some time, the names of the members who had already contributed, so that they do not seek to contribute again. We had 13 members who had contributed, starting with the Honorable Didmas Barasa, the Honorable David Sankok, the Honorable Martin Owino, the Honorable Kipiego Ngeno, the Honorable Emmanuel Wangwe, the Honorable Godfrey Osotsi, the Honorable Gideon Keter, the Honorable Anjiko Njuguna, the Honorable Obor Weida, the Honorable Ibrahim Sahal, the Honorable Cornelis Serem, the Honorable Edith Nyenze, and the Honorable Janet Nangabo. So those members had contributed, and now we have a balance of 50 minutes. And the first member who is interested on my list here is the Honorable Pukose Robert, the member for Entebbe. Oh, just hold on, the Honorable Pukose, just hold on. I see Gishimo. Yes, those instructions have just been informed that the Honorable Gishimo, you are on the floor when the matter was adjourned, and you had a balance of 9 minutes. Is that correct? The Honorable Pukose, you will allow the Honorable, yes, to take his 9 minutes, and you will follow. Proceed.
Maybe, Speaker, before you proceed, I would like to seek your guidance. Now that, as at that time I had a balance of 9, and owing to what has been resolved by the House, that the time has now been limited to 5. I believe I'll be comfortable to go by what has now been resolved, that will limit the time to 5 minutes, because whatever has now been resolved supersedes whatever happened that time, Mr. Speaker.
Proceed.
Still 10, okay.
Yes, proceed. Still 10. But you can do 5 if you choose to do 5.
Yeah, I'll do what I can, because
do what you can.
It's only one amendment.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the Pensions Amendment Bill 2010 brought to this House by Honorable Didi Barasa, member for Kimilili. And Mr. Speaker, this bill addresses the problems and concerns of almost all the constituents represented in this House. We've one or many other occasions been approached by the constituents who would like us to follow up for their pensions, which are usually stuck along the way from their employer to the payer. And Mr. Speaker, when a time has been given for the payment of the pensions, this will bring a lot of prudence to the employers, and especially those who work in the government, because this bill addresses those people who work as public officers. And Mr. Speaker, by the time someone is being employed, that time the retirement date is also known, because public officers work for a specific time to retirement. So it's upon the employer and the government in this case to start preparing the pensions for the retirees in good time, to avoid an indefinite time as the law provides now. People go even for years. I have had teachers come to my place so that I can follow for their pensions. I have had chiefs, sub-chiefs, and many other employees. Mr. Speaker, that is why I'm here to support this bill, so that the 90 days provided for the payment of the pension must be followed by the government in terms of the payment of the pensions to the retirees. And maybe one more thing that we need to do, probably with the discussion with the owner of the bill, is we also put a recourse or a reprieve should that period not be adhered to for the payment of the pension to the retirees, so that there has to be a penalty, or the retiree ought to earn an interest or something to compensate for the failure to comply with the law as it is being proposed. We have also seen, Mr. Speaker, that retirees have also fallen prey to brokers who purport that they can follow up for their pensions, and they end up losing a lot of money. And this bill tries and fixes that, because it will be automatic. Once you retire, you are entitled to your pension at a particular time, or after the 90 days proposed. Mr. Speaker, since it's only one amendment that is being sought, and which is very crucial, and that will address the problems of our constituents, I would not want to belabor, so that I can give any other person with an interest to contribute an opportunity to do that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to support.
Mike seems to have a problem today, but we'll find a way. The Honorable Pukosi, you may now have.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support the Pensions Amendment Bill number 26 of 2020 by the Honorable Didmas Mutua Barasa, member for Kimilili. Honorable Speaker, this is a good amendment. It's an amendment that reduces the number of days for which the pension should be processed to 90 days. Honorable Speaker, to me, I think we might have to even bring an amendment, because once somebody has served the government up to the age of 60 years or even more than 60 years, you've retired. Many of them go home and they start languishing in poverty because their salaries are stopped. So I think a way should be found that they may have to be continued even on their salary, and once the pension starts reflecting, then the salary can be stopped. Because Normally, it is very easy and very fast for the various government departments to immediately stop the salaries of these civil servants who have served the nation diligently. But for them to put into the system, for them to get pensions, it takes many months, many years, and you'll find that many of them, when you are moving out from Parliament here debating, going to your office, you will find that you are meeting civil servants outside there, chiefs, assistant chiefs, and others, teachers, telling you we've come to follow up on our pension. And somebody even does not have fare to follow up that pension. So I think a way should be found that it becomes automatic. When you stop the salary, then you immediately put that person on pension. If you've not put him on pension, then they should even continue earning a salary as they wait for the process to take effect, so that you are converting from salary now to pension. And Honorable Speaker, I think it has been very unfair, because when you go to other countries, which we try to follow, the UK and other places, you will find that the retirees are actually enjoying their lifetime after serving the country. You even have, in US, you have veterans hospitals for those who have served in the military. When they are unwell, they go to the hospital and they are treated. You find that even here, I think a way needs to be found out. Even those who have served in the military, when they have gone home and they are sick, we should have a veterans hospital, or even the Forces Memorial should be able to address, to take care of their health needs. Because these are Kenyans who have even given their lives to serve this country, and some of them end up with serious injuries. They end up with fractures, they end up with serious gunshot wounds. I have a neighbor at home there, it's called John Moiben. He suffered a hip dislocation. And you find that now the guy who has served in the military for that length of time is suffering at home. He can't access the Forces Memorial for treatment. So I think this, we need to look at ways of how do we take care of our veterans, how do we take care of our retirees, how do we make this pension in such a way that those who have served this country diligently are well taken care of in their retirement. Because more often, what happens is that you look at, if somebody is going on retirement, this person looks at retirement as a condemned place. You are being condemned to die. Many of them, you find that if they did not invest well, then you will find that once they retire, they lead a more miserable life. Even somebody tries to, as much as possible, to add even more days, more months, saying, can I have an extension? Maybe my age was even not properly given. I've been retired earlier than age. And it ends up, and this kind of cycle is actually what promotes even corruption, because people want to steal so that when you go on retirement, you have enough money to take care of you. Yet you've served the government, you could be able to serve honorably, do the job that you are supposed to do, and when you retire, you go home happy to a more comfortable life, now that you are not waking up early, you are not stressed to go to work and that kind of thing. So I think this bill by the Honorable Mutua Barasa needs to be improved such that we can have a more seamless retirement benefits, retirement pensions for all our workers. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I want to support.
Well spoken, the Honorable Pukose. We must treat our retirees as they have invested their time in service to the nation, and they must enjoy the fruit of their investment. The Honorable Atandi, member for Alego Songa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support this bill by the Honorable Ismail Baraza Honorable Speaker, this is a simple and straightforward legislation which is very important. Most of us in this House, at least I'm aware of more than 5 members of Parliament who have been sent by their constituents to push for their pensions across government departments. And I think this is really immoral, this is really illegal, and this House must make a decision using this bill to tame government from abusing former employees. Because you do not serve government, and once you leave government, you start again another job of following up your pension. This is really not right. And I think I want to thank Honorable Didmas Baraza for, out of his busy schedule of tangering, he has been able to find time to think about something that can help Kenyans. And I think this is very important. The Honorable Speaker, I was consulting with him, and we have noted that, Honorable Speaker, the people who suffer more.
Attorney, the Honorable Attorney, just hold on. The Chief, the Whip for the majority seems to have a point of order. The Honorable Angwe, what is out of order?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker is the very educated member for Alego. In order to use a terminology that doesn't exist in the approved languages, this House has only 2 languages which we understand, English and Kiswahili. Honorable Speaker, he has said, busy tangering. I want to understand, Honorable Speaker, whether that is English, Kiswahili, or which language is that, Honorable Speaker?
The Honorable Angwe, that is a tanga is a Swahili word.
Thank you.
And it has entered the lexicon, the common lexicon of Kenyans, and I think the Honorable Member for Alego Songa is well understood. And the Honorable Member for Alego, I'm happy that we are sitting right next to the Honorable Mutua Barasa without any problems. And this is the way it should be. Proceed.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, maybe I need just to clarify that tangering in English means roaming about and roaming around. And I think this is what my brother here, Didmas, has been doing, but I thank him for thinking through this bill. Honorable Speaker, I wanted to add that the people, there's a section of Kenyans who suffer more on this question of pension. When you lose your loved one and you want to access their pension, you really face the biggest dilemma. I have been privileged to follow up some pensions for some of my relatives who passed on. Honorable Speaker, this is something that you really cannot be able to access in this government. And therefore, I've agreed with Honorable Baraza that we are going to introduce an amendment to include beneficiaries of pensioners, so that they also be able to access their pensions in less than 3 months, as been proposed in this bill. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. I cannot overemphasize the importance of this bill. As I've said before, this bill is very, very important. We cannot have government mistreating their former employees, and this bill is going to cure this anomaly. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I support.
The Honorable Nyikal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me opportunity to contribute to this bill. Mr. Speaker, let me start by congratulating the mover of this bill because it touches on all of us and on everybody in this country at one point or other who is employed. Mr. Speaker, the bill seeks to put limitations on the time taken to pay a person from the time they retire. And this is extremely important, Mr. Speaker, because the current practice is delay and delay and delay. People take a long time before they get their retirement benefits after they go home. And further still, there is a lot of uncertainty as to whether they will be paid. You find these people moving around from government office to government office, from a politician's office to a politician's office, their MCAs, their MPs, just to help them get what is their right. This is totally unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. So the limiting the time is extremely important. So, Speaker, this causes enormous suffering to these people who are accustomed to a regular income and organize their life around it. Some had even gone ahead to prepare how they will invest and use their retirement benefits, and they fail to get it. But the biggest impact that it has on these people is actually the issue of health. By the time people retire at the age of 60 and above, they have a lot of health problems. And staying a long time suffering actually aggravates the situation. You find many of them actually get sick, many die. And when they die, the situation gets worse because their next of kin cannot actually claim this thing. Many don't even know the process of claiming it. And you find that these remain as unclaimed assets. A country should not actually put a process for unclaimed assets where it is possible that the owners of the assets can be traced. Some remain unclaimed because of the fault of the system we have put in place in giving them their assets when they need it. And Mr. Speaker, it is even worse that if with that delay, even the value of the income they get is actually reduced. They lose the opportunity to invest. If it takes years before you get this money, what you would have invested earlier becomes so expensive, it actually becomes beyond you. So it has a lot of multiplier effect. And we shouldn't even think of it, Mr. Speaker, as only affecting the persons that have retired. When a lot of people retire in a community and they get their income regularly, it has a multiplier effect in the economy of that community. So that when they are paid, they actually spend this, it supports the small businesses that are in the area. So we are not only punishing the retirees, but we are punishing the community in which they live. Mr. Speaker, some of these people are some of the people who will be most active in supporting schools, supporting dispensaries, supporting community development. They cannot do this and live in abject poverty. They spend all the time chasing the money that they should have received. So the loss is much bigger than the direct loss to the retirees. It is the loss to the community, it is a loss to the society at large. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, this bill comes in time. It provides a time limit. I think what we need to actually do in amending this bill is actually bring sanctions, very serious sanctions for failing to do that, including imposing fines on the people who are involved, including putting interest on the payment after the time has elapsed, so that when they get their money, they have been compensated for the loss they have because of the delay. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well spoken, the Honorable Dr. Nyikang. The Honorable Daniel Wanyama, member for Webuye West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to support the bill brought by Honorable Barasa. And on the onset, Mr. Speaker, I think the government or the people processing this pension have taken Kenyans for granted for quite a long time. And it is important that this bill has come in place when we must actually put laws in place and crack the whip for these people who delay the pension for the people who have worked hard for the Kenyans when they go back home. In fact, this is a saving of the pensioners, and it should be treated like when one deposits a fixed account in the bank, such that anytime you want to access it, it should be readily available, and that no delay should be there when somebody wants to use this money. In fact, it has caused a lot of injuries on the pensioners, because when they get back home and they have issues to settle down, honestly, the pension people have always taken it for granted that even somebody going to claim for the same must bribe the officers for him or her to get her money back that she or he worked for a long time. So this bill, honestly, and I want to agree with other members, that we must put sanctions. Sanctions that if the time put in place, the person has not gotten his or her pension, then the person who actually delayed the payment of the same should be surcharged, so that actually it becomes a very punitive law for people not to joke with people's lives. It is important, Mr. Speaker, that this has been taken a long time, and I want to agree with members that whenever we go back home, teachers will come, civil servants will come, because their pensions have really delayed to be paid. And this should also go to the extension of the beneficiaries after the pensioners have passed on. Because it is even worse when the pensioner passes on and yet the pension that he was supposed to get has not been released. It is always a nightmare. Many Kenyans have lost the funds because they do not know where to go. And the worst situation is the pension processing issue has been centralized only in Nairobi. And maybe we should move further and say that even this pension processing should be decentralized to various counties, so that it becomes easier and actually it reduces the agony of the pensioners to make trips to Nairobi, and at that time they don't have even fare to come to Nairobi. So I want to appreciate Honorable Barasa for having come up with this amendment, and I want us to take it very seriously so that we save Kenyans who are suffering in the hands of these fund staff at the pension offices. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Dan Wanyama, you have spoken to my heart. It reminds me when my father passed on, and my mother had to pursue his paltry pension for more than 5 years. It was a really painful process. The Honorable Martin Owino, member for Ndiwa, are you? No, you have something else. Very well. So we shall have the Honorable Mabonga Mwambo, the member for Bumula.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. From the onset, I also wish to support this amendment because it's an amendment that is coming at the time when many Kenyans who are retirees are living very undesirable lives. Today, Mr. Speaker, as I stand here, I have several names within my phones to check their status of the pension here from Nairobi. And at times my PA is involved in such a thing since morning up to evening without any response. I want to congratulate my friend, Honorable Barasa, who has come up with this amendment, because with this amendment, Mr. Speaker, we shall have specific timelines on how we should serve the senior citizens of this country. Mr. Speaker, yesterday, and the Honorable Member, I don't know whether he's here, we were with the Honorable Member for Kiminini, and even one of our colleagues came around. One was chasing his own issues and the issue of the wife. And you look at the kind of life these people are living, Mr. Speaker, it's pathetic. One of the reasons why people save for retirement is so that they can live a good life, if not maintain the same life they've been living. but you go to retirement where you cannot even access your medical cover, you cannot be able even to run around with just to have your own basic life, yet you served the nation with all the energy and dedication. I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, many retirees die without seeing the benefits of this pension, and this is the right time for us to put the right measures in place. If we talk of punishment, we have to be very specific, because if we do research, we need to know why there has been delay with the payment of the pension of the retirees. Because at times it's not even treasury. You may realize the money is there, but the staffs have their own way of working. And if we put the punishment, we must also put the benefits. That if, actually I agree with the member who has said that we've talked of the 3 month, if the 3 month elapses, every month that member must be earning an interest on the money that he has saved. If we do that, Mr. Speaker, we shall be able to save lives. And you remember that many of these people, when they retire, they go to the community. And if they have money that circulates within the community, they will be able even to assist quite a number of people. Some people go to retirement, Mr. Speaker, they are still having children who are still going to school. And today, you happen to come from the region where I come from. If you wake up in the morning, you'll be surprised, especially the teachers who have a problem. I think the teachers of 1990 somewhere there. Every day you go home, they have even formed a caucus. They will come to your home requesting how they can be assisted. But whenever you come up here, you rarely get the good response to give them. So, Mr. Speaker, if we can put these things into law, the pension of somebody at the lapse of 3 months, if he has not been paid, the money starts earning interest. It will be the responsibility of the involved agents or the ministry or the department to ensure that they clear those benefits of the retirees right on time. Mr. Speaker, something else that has just been mentioned by my colleague here again. In this era of devolution, where everything, people are enjoying services at the close range, at the doorstep, and even you realize that even Pesa Sawazei, people are not traveling all the way to come to Nairobi. We must find a way of serving our senior citizens at the closest point possible. If these units can be established at the DC's place, or even at the county level, they will not be struggling to come all the way to Nairobi, struggle where to sleep. Some of them have no places to spend, struggles to look for politicians to assist them. Some of them will go on looking for friends. You'll find them on the streets. If you go outside the gate, you'll find people lining up. There must be a way within this amendment that we must find a way of accommodating our senior citizens at the devolved units so that it can be. Colleague Didmas, who have come up with such a great amendment. It's a proper care of our people, because today we're here, tomorrow we will be the same people requesting for the same service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I support this amendment.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Member for Bumula, the Honorable Mabonga. The Honorable Okwome Adepo, Member for Karachuonyo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Now, the question of pension is a very interesting one. The pensioner all the time knows when he's retiring, and the employer keeps on reminding him of the retirement date, maybe to prepare him psychologically and financially for the time he's going to be without a job. For that, I congratulate the employer. But then when the employer wants the retiree to prepare himself, what is he doing on his part? This is a very important question. He should also prepare for the departure of his employee by making sure that all documents he needs for payment of pension are ready before the departure of the employee. But then They don't do this. They just keep quiet. And they know the consequences of this person leaving employment without any money. So somebody is careless here, and that's the employer. And somebody is going to... I think this is a very serious thing. Honorable Barasa, I congratulate you for having seen this and brought up this motion for us to discuss. I want us to put a lot of emphasis on this so that when the employee is as careless as to ignore what's going to happen to this person who has given his best of service, if this employer does not bother what happens thereafter, he should pay a penalty for it. But let me turn back to the employee. If he's departing before his payment is ready, I agree with my colleague who suggested that he should remain on the payroll until the pension touches his bank account. If full salary maybe is not commensurate with the situation, then I ask that we give him half of his salary until he gets his pension. And then action should also be taken on the person who is responsible for this unnecessary expenditure. I call it unnecessary because nothing is accidental about the delay. The delay is occurring when everybody is aware, and the person concerned is just smiling, not bothering. I'm told, this one I may not be totally sure, but I'm told that some of the retirees are asked for chai kidogo, if I can use that word, in order that he can be paid what is rightly due to him. That delay is creating many problems to the citizens, to the senior citizens of this nation. I therefore support this bill and support it strongly, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for giving me your time.
The Honorable Ogola Ochanda, Member for Bondo.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, from what I've been hearing most of members say, it's like pension is a favor. Pensions are not favors. Immediately one is employed under pensionable terms, that person starts paying himself. He contributes to this fund from day one to the end of his date when he's retiring. So it is actually your money. It is not a favor. So any other employer, or including the government, when they are treating pension as though it is a favor, is really, really, really absurd. Because you pay a bit, and the government, your employer, also pays a bit. So when the point at when you are retiring, every employer each year knows how many of their staff are retiring. Much more early, they know. And when they get to know that so and so is retiring in this year, definitely the preparation for that person's pension needs to start. So this idea that you want to wait until somebody is retired, until he goes home or she goes home, is when you start processing the issue of pension, I think is not right. And this is something that needs to be done much more early. The employers need to be updating all these things much more early, because retirement is not an accident. Retirement is very clear. There is a date, and every employer knows when each one of their employees are going to retire. So it is not a favor, it is a contribution. And the problem that has been there, if it has been the part of the employer that has been having a problem, then immediately the payment of the part of contributions that have been done by the pensioner himself or herself needs to be paid immediately, because that is his money or her money. So if you put it together now with the contribution of the employer and then it starts taking too long, then I think there's a problem. So the whole idea of 90 days is fine, but I think it's not good enough, because we are treating this as though pension is really a favor, and it is not. The other thing that has been alluded to, there is double tragedy in terms of handling or chasing issues of pension by beneficiaries when a pensioner dies. That's now another big hurdle. Yeah, it has been alluded that it is really a big issue, and I think we need to be very clear that when issues of pension on death needs to be arranged in a manner that we put the other assets aside, and these are supposed to be quick recoveries, things that beneficiaries needs to recover very quickly, other than waiting for too long. And you can imagine if a pensioner is alive, it's not easy to get his money. What of when he's dead? So, Mr. Speaker, I think when we are talking about this, we need to be very serious that people are suffering. There are people who worked with Kenya Railways, I don't know which years. Many of them have not been paid. There are people who have been teachers for a long period of time. They were not paid. I think there was a period when even, I think sometime around early 2000, a period of like 10 or so years, teachers who served at that particular time, all of them were not getting pensions for a long period of time. So, and there's a big chunk of people. So if you fail to get your pension in 10 years and you are retired at 60, it means that you are 70. Chances of you dying are very high. So, Mr. Speaker, I think the government needs to look at this in a much more serious way than what we are seeing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, member for Kiharu. 3 minutes. Oh, you had contributed. Then that opportunity will go to the Honorable Yusuf Haji, member for Mandera.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also thank sincerely my colleague, Honorable Baraza, for having come up with this amendment, which is very timely. Actually, pension delay has become very chronic. I know of members, pensioners who have stayed even 6-7 years waiting for their pension. And because of the stress, because of having stress of waiting for that money, many of them die or they get even very serious chronic illness. And by the time they get their pension, if ever they get before their death, it will not even help them. Therefore, many of them die without getting. And this system of pension, of centralized pension, that every pensioner must come to Nairobi to look for his or her pension, is a serious problem that needs to be looked at. Why can't we or the government decentralize the pension processing points? Even if the payment is ultimately in Nairobi, but at least the pension processing points need to be decentralized to as low as maybe sub-county level, so that a pensioner can go to the sub-county pension office and process all his papers there. Whatever is missing is asked while he's there. He or she supplies it, and by the time it's sent to Nairobi, then it's only a matter of payment. And this is what's supposed to be done. NSSF does it to some extent, actually to the regional level at least. And why can't the centralized retirement pension schemes system don't do the same? Some people even fear to continue working until they reach retirement age. They fear because by the time they retire and their pension will not be available, they know that they are going to suffer, and hence they retire, or some of them leave the job and look for an alternative livelihood before they reach the pension age, just because they know that pension will delay and they'll suffer. My recommendation is that, as my other colleagues have said, pension must be paid within 3 months. And those 3 months, pensioners should be paid their full salaries until they get their pension in their account. Because how else do you expect for somebody to survive? Somebody who has worked for this government for 30 years, 35 years. The only way that person can survive, and the only way we can be very fair as a government, is that the pensioner should be paid full salary until his or her pension reaches his account. That is the time the salary is supposed to be stopped. But now, what is happening is salary is stopped, pension is not forthcoming, and therefore the person suffers throughout. Corruption is another problem. Somebody who has been a teacher maybe for 30 years, having retired, has nothing, maybe comes looking for his pension here in Nairobi. The person is already suffering because of expenses like hotel bills.
The Honorable Yusuf, we've been caught by time.
Pardon?
I'll ask you to wind down in a minute so that
Okay. So my strong recommendation is that let us pay pensioners their full salaries until their pension is in their account. Thank you so much.
Very well, honorable members, the time for this has run. It is now to call upon the mover to reply. The Honorable Mutua Barasa. The Honorable Mutua Barasa, before you dive in, you have two ways to go about it. You can donate some time to members if you choose to, but if you choose to speak, then you will not be able to donate the remainder of the time. So you need to decide that before you start.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to move. And before I proceed, I will want to donate 2 minutes to Honorable Kioni, 1 minute to Honorable David Ocheng, and 1 minute to Honorable Badi, Member of Parliament for Jomvu. So they will finish, then I will wrap up.
So that's very orderly. The Honorable Kioni, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank the mover of this motion for bringing a very important motion to this House. This is a very important issue. It affects us across the country, and it is important that it is brought to the attention of Parliament, I hope, and of government. I hope, again, this is not a bill that we will waste its time on the floor of the Senate. When we have an opportunity to make amendments, we will, but it is across the country. Those who retire and they start suffering. They are reduced to beggars. And the reason is because some of the officers at the Ministry of Treasury start asking for bribes. It's not anything that is not known. They want to be paid some little money to help process these pensions. And I think it is important that we compel on them to process it within a known time, the 90 days, but also carry the punishment further, not just paying money on top of what needed to have been paid to the pensioner, but also punish the officers who waste our time and time of those who have served this country. I thank you.
The Honorable David Ocheng, Member for Uganda.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you so much to the Honorable Mutua for bringing this very important bill. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to try to convince the Honorable Mutua to change it so that we say that the pension should be processed 90 days before retirement, not after. By the time he does work, he knows that his pension is already being processed, so that a person is not spending money that he doesn't have after retiring, coming to Nairobi. These people normally nowadays get notice of retirement, Mr. Speaker, 1 year before retirement. That's what the government does. Everyone is told, you now have 11 months to retire. These 11 months should, as soon as you have given the letter, the process of getting your pension should kick in, so that you process this before you leave work, not after you leave work, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Jen. I think that is something I'm sure the Honorable Barasa will take on as we move to the more important third reading, committee of the whole House. The Honorable Barasa, the Honorable Mbadi. Yes, you also have a chance.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwanza nataka kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Baraza kwa kuja na mswada huu. Alafu pia tumeona Mheshimiwa Spika kuwa watu wengi sana wanafanya kazi baada ya kumaliza kufanya kazi wanaishilia katika ufukara, na vile vile kuona kuwa wengine wanakufa kabla hawajapata haya marupurupu yao. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nasema kuwa Mheshimiwa Baraza amefanya vizuri katika mswada huu, kwa kuwa yatakana mtu akifika kustaafu kabla hata hiyo miezi mitatu haijafika ndio aanze ile process ya kufuatilia hii pesa. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni muhimu kwa serikali kuona kuwa anashughulikia mambo haya ili kuona kuwa mara moja mtu anapostaafu anapata pesa zake na malimbikizi yake yale ambayo anastahili kupewa. Mheshimiwa Spika, pia tunaona kuwa kumefanyika ugatuzi kwa mambo mengi. Kwa hivyo pia katika haya marupurupu ingekuwa bora zaidi pia, badala wao kuja kuhangaika hapa Nairobi, watu wajui maofisi, wanapata shida, hana mahali pa kukaa. Ni muhimu yule anayestaafu ikiwa yuko katika region fulani, pesa zake awe anaweza kuzipata huko. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, napongeza Mheshimiwa.
The Honorable Mutua is now the opportunity to wind it up.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want to appreciate all members of Parliament who have supported these amendments and say that this bill will herald a new beginning in this country, that retirees will never beg pensioners to pay their pension because the pension belongs to them, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, this bill will also save Kenyans who are retiring from the colossal sums of money that they pay to middlemen and brokers in the name of corruption, in what they usually say, pushing the file, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I have noted the concerns of many members of Parliament, notably being that we consider during a committee of the whole House to do an amendments to ensure that the preparation of this pension should be done before somebody retires, and also consider introducing a penalty to compel the pension schemes to process their pensions as stipulated in this law, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I want to urge Kenyans that this House holds their interests dear, and that we will do everything possible to ensure that this bill, this House approves this bill, and once signed into law, we will also continue to monitor its implementation and propose further amendments in future to ensure that there is no Kenyan man or woman who will suffer because of their pension, and that after they have retired, they must get their money to continue servicing the loans that they have. They must get their pensions to continue also paying for their own insurance, the medical insurance. As you all know, that people retire at the age of 60, some at the age of 70, and there is not rocket science that one has to apply to know that this particular officer is retiring at this particular time. So this bill will come to cure so many problems. I know there are people who have died before accessing their pensions. I know we have people who have been auctioned before they access their pensions. And the reason why we have introduced a pension scheme in this country is to ensure that upon retirement they will use this pension money to set up their business. Some will become consultants, but all those wishes disappear because of the kind of things.
The Honorable Barasa.
With these very few remarks, Honorable Speaker, I reply.
Very well. The Honorable Badi Twalib, you do not seem to have a mask at all. The Honorable Mbogo, member for... Yeah, it is not supposed to be in your pocket. Just wear it. We still require to have masks in the House. So members, just let us be cautious. We are at that age when if something happens to you, you never know. Let's just stay on the cautious side. Let's wear these masks as much as possible. The Honorable Barasa, thank you for this job well done, and this is something that is really exciting, and the purpose of this House to make the life of citizens, and especially those who are vulnerable like the retirees, a little comfortable. If we make it difficult the way we have,
currently, I don't think we are doing a good service to the country. So it is a good proposal from you. Thank you. I will not move on to the next stage. I will direct that that will be undertaken at the next time this matter will be listed, so that the question could be put. I direct that we move to the next business on the order paper.
Order number 21, the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, second reading.
The Honorable Martin Owin, member for the.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, before I move this bill, I have to express my joy that after almost 2 years, this bill have seen some light at the second reading. I also want to thank the Majority Whip, who has been very passionate to ensure that in the business meeting, Mr. Speaker, this bill remains steady. Thank you so much, Honorable Wangwe. I want to also thank 89,000 community health workers across the country who have been asking me at least to move quickly with this bill. And that said, I also want to thank our health committee, led by Honorable Sabina Chege, who went through this bill and made some amendments, which I will be alluding to. And also Dr. Nyikal, who made several community health policies, which were supposed to be implemented by this unrecognized cadre, and as well as the entire workforce, which I can call colleagues in professional medical care. So, Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020. Speaker, the principal object of this bill is to provide a framework for regulation of community health workers. Also, the Health Act 2017 in the first schedule recognizes community health service at level 1. Mr. Speaker, our healthcare structure system is from level 1 to level 6. And what this bill is addressing are community health workers at level 1 and also connecting to level 2. Mr. Speaker, in each and every units are led by community health workers, and the oversight is done by community extension workers who are located at the health center level. This bill therefore provides a legislative framework to make a provision for recognition, training, licensing community health workers so as to regulate their practice and provide for establishment of Community Health Workers Council to coordinate the services. The formation of Community Health Workers Council will help to bring order at level 1 services by facilitating community health workers' identification, nationwide uniforms, and varying compensation or through stipends, and an acceptable resource conduit for donors. I want to emphasize this because right now so many donors, Mr. Speaker, are willing to sponsor, but they are not willing to put money through county governments. So this council will give a conducive environment for donors to donate towards the compensation of community health workers. Mr. Speaker, locally and globally, community health workers are called many names. Some I can say even locally here, Nikaito work in Masai, Nyamrera in Luo, health coach, community health advisors, community health volunteers, family advocates, health educators, outreach workers, peer counselors, patient navigators, health interpreters, public health aid, and so on. But this bill wants to streamline all those names into community health workers. The Speaker, you cannot achieve UHC by volunteers, because these are people who also have their children, who have their needs, the school fees to pay,
and they have to be compensated regularly in one way or the other. That's why we prefer, as a matter of name, community health workers and not volunteers. Mr. Speaker, many of the healthcare providers, especially at the county level, fear that compensating community health workers fully is more expensive. But when this bill is enacted and community health workers are empowered and motivated, the cost of healthcare will go down. So I want to allude to those fears that, in fact, investing in community health workers will reduce the cost of healthcare in this country. Mr. Speaker, Article 43 of the Constitution provides that every person has the right to the highest attainable standard of health, which include the right to healthcare services, among other rights. That can only be achieved by the support of a motivated and coordinated community health workers. Today, Kenya is working towards achieving universal health coverage by 2030 in line with the Sustainable Development Goals. A key factor in achieving this goal is the provision of community health services, which will be delivered by this cadre we are talking about. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, community health is a flagship project under Kenya's Vision 2030 and is recognized by Level 1 of healthcare pursuant to the first schedule to the Health Act 2017. Community health workers is implemented through community health units. Mr. Speaker, these units could be also called sub-locations where they operate in. In every community health unit serves about 5,000 people. So each unit is assigned one community health worker, each community health assistant, and 10 community health workers. In short, what I'm trying to say here is that we have a full structure of delivering healthcare services, even up to the household. But what happens is that if you take a sub-location and assign 10, that figure is still higher because it will force the community health workers to care maybe between 50 to 200 people. But what we are trying to do, when this is enacted into an act, that will be structured and more will be recruited and trained and assigned in those locations. Mr. Speaker, health workers who provide preventive, promotive, and curative and rehabilitative system makes the whole care. But the most important one is the one in the lower pyramid of healthcare, and that is services given in the household level. And the person who plays that part is community health worker. Mr. Speaker, the second national health strategy, that is the plan for 2005 to 2010, set out a new approach to health service delivery that emphasizes activities of promoting individual as well as community health to prevent diseases. The Kenya Primary Healthcare Strategy Framework, also 2019 to 2024, further promotes the use of community-based primary health care. Additionally, the third edition of the Community Health Strategy, that's 2020-2025, provides a framework for building the capacity of households to know and progressively realize their rights to equitable, good quality health care and demand services. Mr. Speaker, what this addresses is that if all of us throughout the country can have self-care, can have health-seeking behavior, that means going even to a hospital or to a healthcare facility to be checked up, even when there's nothing wrong. Those attitudes are made at the household level, where community health workers play a greater role to motivate people.
No, you cannot self-medicate on this one, you have to go to the hospital. Or you are in prenatal care, you have to visit 4 times before you deliver. All those important decisions are made in the household. And therefore, the motivated community health worker will be a very, very useful tool there. Mr. Speaker, access to comprehensive quality health care services is important for promoting and maintaining health, preventing and managing diseases, reducing unnecessary disabilities and premature death, and achieving health equity for all Kenyans. Today, why I'm emphasizing that we need to uphold this bill and pass it is that the ratio between those who care or provide health care and the patients are so wide in all health cadres. For example, the WHO recommends that we have 1 doctor to 1,000 people. Here we still have 1 doctor to over 16,000 people. It's not possible. Nurses is 1 to 970. Here, and WHO recommendation is 250. So to bridge the gap, and we are not alone, this is global. In the healthcare system, we have 7.2 million. But what is expected in 2030 is 18 million. So we are not alone in this. It depends on each country how they design and execute their health delivery system. So because there's lack of personnel, even in our rural setting, I know most of you are representing rural folks. You have 2 nurses in a facility. If one goes on training, there's only 1. If something happened to that one, the clinic is closed. But the person who is available in the community 24/7 is a community health worker. And I can testify that when I was in Homa Bay, most of the pneumonia and uncomplicated malaria cases were treated at home because they were trained and equipped by UNICEF. So what we are trying to say is that in a scenario, Mr. Speaker, where we are not going to reach the personnel as much as we can, and we should, community health worker is the gap, is the material to fill the gap. If that happens and they are motivated, we will reduce disease progression, we will increase self-care, early detection of diseases really reduces our tertiary care. We will have very minimal admissions because most of the conditions or ailments would have been dealt with primarily at the local level. Even preventive care like cancer. Mr. Speaker, most of our people now appear in a tertiary care at level 3 or 4 when they are almost done. You talk of diabetes when the organs are failing. You talk of blood pressure. Some end with stroke. So the health outcomes without community health workers' intervention when diseases are still at their primary level are costing the healthcare industry a lot of money. So today, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to report that we have about 9,132 community health units, but we have still shortages of 420 to be organized. We have 89,670 community health workers, but we still have 5,400 to go so that we can have a complete army to address those community health units. The body who will help us to do all this are the council which we are promoting, which we are initiating here. So, Mr. Speaker, with fully trained, equipped, and motivated community health workers, the following will be achieved, and this will help a great deal our country. Number 1, they will make home visits and initiate dialogues with household members. Number 2, they will motivate community to value health so that they can have that self-care or health-seeking behavior. Early detection of diseases and conditions, the increase in disease detection and diagnosis and treatment and follow-ups. The Speaker, just giving somebody a pill or a drug, so to speak, does not mean he will take the entire course and the outcome of the health will be okay. He needs a supportive system, and this is community health work. We will also have provided patient support and disease treatment adherence. They will reduce self-medication. Because of the cost of healthcare now, many people turn to self-medication, which I discourage them not to do. But the best person who will tell them mostly, because they will be with them in the household, is a community health worker. Mr. Speaker, currently we still use old data, but when given phones, this can collect updated data and help us in managing the system. Maternal neonatal child mortality is still high in Kenya, but it has been approved, or it has been known through a lot of research, that community health workers help in significant reduction of these mortalities. Access to undeserved communities, like now we are talking of social insurance. The best person to know who needs an insurance so that he can visit hospital is a community health worker. And of course, that will reduce travel, will reduce cost of care. So, Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, this bill passed through public participation, and we have several admissions. Some came from Ministry of Health, some came from Public Health Officers and Technicians Council, some came from National Gender and Equality Commission. Also, we had a submission from Community Health Services and Development Officers Association, Society of Community Health Caregivers, the People's Health Movement, and also Mr. James Wakungwi Sakwa. All that, after being reviewed, the committee came up with some amendments, which I want to read very quickly. Clause 5, we thought should be changed to ensure that both national government and the county government are all involved. And that also will affect Clause 6, which is the formation of the council. They will be represented. The amendment of Clause 18 of the bill will ensure that a person shall qualify for appointment as a registrar if the person has any degree recognized in Kenya. Also, we had amendment in the second schedule that the bill will ensure that a person performing the functions of a community health worker shall be required to have only a minimum certificate of qualification to be eligible to be registered in the Act. The Speaker, that means even when Dr. Nyikal retires, he will have to go through certification of a community health worker in order to be in same as a community health worker. So we made it as simple as possible so that they remain in the community. The bill in part 7 rather, is on transitional provision. That means when this bill is enacted, then all persons performing the function of a community health worker shall undertake any of the courses prescribed by the second schedule, which will be oversighted by the Community Health Council. So I want to encourage and ask members, please, this is waiting, and it is a good bill that will help us to implement the community, to implement the universal health coverage. And when that is done, there's one similar bill like this coming up from Senate. So when we do with ours, we'll be able to merge this bill quickly so that we can get it out. And when we have this out, I think we who are in health frontier will be very happy to see that those diseases which are leading in mortalities in this country can be caught through preventive care or screening, and people are advised on time to seek care. We'll also find out that those who are braving diseases when the diseases are progressing in them can have a change of attitude, that they may seek care when the disease is still at a lower stage. This cadre will also make the level 2, level 3, which is a health center and a dispensary, very busy. And I think in our committee we have also asked the Ministry of Health to make sure that these levels are well equipped with both personnel and diagnostic equipment, so that when community health workers move people to these facilities, they get adequate care. When that is well done, we'll cut out all those referrals which are done because of advanced stage of the disease to tertiary care, which is very expensive. Because our outcomes in those facilities is either somebody is discharged with higher drugs or they die. So we lose breadwinners. I beseech you that you move quickly in your deliberation so that we pass this bill to organize the community health workers so that level 1 can be fully serviced. And as you know, Baba Care is coming, and I think this will be a great tool to use in that. So with that, I move, Mr. Speaker, and I ask my friend Dr. Nyikal to second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Dr. Nyikal?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving this opportunity. Let me start by really thanking the mover and the health committee that has worked on this. Mr. Speaker, as I second, I must take time to recognize Professor Miriam Were, Professor Kaseje, the two we start with in 2003 and 2004 when I was Director of Medical Services to actually bring out the community strategy, the basis of which are the community health workers. I think we must give them that appreciation. Mr. Speaker, I stand to second this bill whose objective is to provide a framework for regulation of community health workers, their training, their selection, and the council that guides them. Mr. Speaker, I support because when we started, it was community health workers. Now terms like volunteers have been brought in and bringing confusion. Mr. Speaker, Article 43 of our Constitution provides for a right to health care. And our country seeks to achieve this through the agenda of universal health care. Mr. Speaker, the most important element in achieving the Article 43 provision through universal health cover is prevention of disease, promotion of health, and early recognition of diseases and treatment at that point. The second one is healthcare financing, getting enough money to finance healthcare. And the third is adequate health, human resource health workers. If we implement the community strategy, working with community health workers, this will significantly reduce the cost of health care. So, Speaker, if you catch a cancer when it's still a lump and it is cut out, excised out, you will probably use something less than 100 Kenyan shillings. If you go and now treat it at the fourth stage, you are going to use actually millions and use expensive equipment. So that is one of the best ways to reduce the cost of healthcare is early recognition of disease, prevention, and promotion of health. The bill seeks to entrench community health workers as part and parcel of our health workforce. By doing that, it will reduce the requirement of the number of health workers we need. So if we can use this system, reduce the cost of care, reduce the health workforce that we need, that will go a long way. And how do the community health workers do this? Their role is actually, as I've said, prevention, promotion, early detection. But their role is actually working at the community level. People don't get sick in hospitals. People get sick at home. That is where illness starts. And they address the social determinants of health. The things we eat, the places we live in, the areas we work with, so that we address the causes behind the causes. Bacteria will cause cholera. But if you can have clean water, you will not get the bacteria. So the cause behind the cause is clean water. And that is what they will address, those causes behind the causes, by advising the families. Because all this lie in the community. When people get into hospital, they are sick, it is rather late. So we must address this as community level. Mr. Speaker, the history and the impact of community health workers in other countries have been demonstrated that they are actually cost effective, they reduce the cost of care and the need even for human resource. In Ethiopia, for example, it has been demonstrated quite effectively that putting them as part and parcel of the workforce and supporting them financially reduces the cost. The current director of the World Health Organization, we actually started this thing, we worked together on the community strategy, they went ahead and implemented it, and actually now Ethiopia is benefiting from that. In Kenya, when we worked on it as the basis of the community strategies, at level 1 of the healthcare we have now, level 1 is the community, and that is where all the work should be done. And therefore, we must properly define the community health worker, knowing very well that they are at level 1 in the community where illnesses start, and that is where they have to be dealt with. So we must have a clear criteria, one of their selection. And I'll say, I think we have looked at it in the committee, but the selection must be from the community in which they live. All other requirements will be there, but they must be members of that community. And 2, their definition must make sure they are members of that community and live in that community selected by the community. We will not have a situation where once we define them as part of the health workforce, then we put them into cadres that can be moved from one place to the other, being transferred. When we do that, we lose their value as community health worker. Their value is in the knowledge of the community in which they live, the structure of it, the physical environment, everything they know about that. So as we bring a council as for other health workers who are movable, this we must tie by definition to the community in which they live and by selection by that community. Mr. Speaker, having done that, we must support them. I do not accept the idea that community health workers are called community health volunteers. No, we must work out a stipend. We must work out in our budget how they are going to be supported, because in the end, they'll reduce the cost. Having done that, we must design their training, their skills, and the kits that they need as they move in the community to help with early detection and early treatment. It has been tried. Even during COVID in Siaya, actually they were tried. They were given pulse oximeters and could move around and actually detect the oxygen need of people and say, this person, although he looks well, now will need to go to hospital because their oxygen levels are low. It worked. It was tried and it worked. So we must give them the kits they need in prevention, simple treatment, and two, they must also be supported by supervision from the level 2, where we have health center, where we have nurses who work with them, public health officers, because them they cover everything. The nursing elements, the public health elements, the curative elements, promotion elements, but they must work with the level 2 facilities so that it is part and parcel of our health system from level 1 all the way to level 6. It must be the first unit, the first base for the national referral system. If we do that, Mr. Speaker, I can assure you the money we put there, we will not regret it. We will achieve universal health cover and actually will reduce the cost of it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I second this bill.
The Honorable Nyikal, it's always enjoyable to listen to you when you speak to these matters. But allow me, members, to propose that the Community Health Workers Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2020, be now read a second time. I will give the first opportunity for special reasons to the Honorable Nasir Sharif, member from Vita.
Asante sana Bwana Spika, na nachukua fursa hii kuweza kutoa shukrani kwako na kwa bunge zima kuweza kukubali kuomboleza pamoja na mimi binafsi na kwa niaba ya wanamvita. Leo tarehe 2 Februari mwaka 2022, Bwana Spika, nikiwa niko katika mkutano wa kamati, nilipatiwa habari ya kusikitika na kuhuzunisha sana ya kwa katika eneo la Old Town kuna moto mkubwa ambao kwamba ulioweza kutokea na watu 6 wameweza kupoteza maisha yao. Hivi tunavyozungumza kuna mama na mtoto wake ambao kwamba wanapata matibabu katika hospitali iliyoko karibu pale. Ni jambo la hamna badili ya maisha, na hata tukaweza kuzungumza vipi, hakuna njia ya kuweza kuregesha maisha ya wale ambao kwamba walopoteza, na wala hakuna lile ambalo kwamba tunaweza kulisema likawa ni dawa ya lile donda la moyo ambao kwamba liko kwa wale ambao kwamba wameweza kupoteza watu wao, na si watu wao peke yao bali ni watu wetu sisi sote. Na ni kuomba tu Mwenyezi Mungu panapo majaliwa yake awaeke pema palipo na wema. Mwenyezi Mungu awajalie wale ambao kwamba walopoteza watu wao, Mwenyezi Mungu awape badala njema inshallah. Na hii leo tuko hapa tukiwa tunazungumza habari ya hii sheria ya Community Health Workers. Kuna umuhimu Bwana Speaker ya kwa hawa Community Health Workers ambao kwamba wako katika kila kiini katika Kenya hii, katika kila sehemu, wapatiwe vifaa, na visiwe ni vifaa ambavyo kwamba ni va kupigana na maradhi peke yake, lakini lazima pia waweze kupatiwa mafunzo ya huduma ya kwanza inayohitajika, ili mambo kama haya na maafa kama haya yakiweza kutokea iwe ni kwa haraka. Kuna watu ambao kwamba wanaweza kujua ni jinsi gani ya kuweza kupigana na maafa yale, na hatusemi ya kuwa kuna badili ya kuweza kuregesha, lakini panapo majaliwa inshallah narejelea tena ya kuwa naliomba bunge hili liweze kupitisha mswada huu, ikiwemo kama mwenzangu daktari alivyozungumza ya kuwa ni lazima waweze kupatiwa vifaa, ili vifaa hivi viweze kusaidia, na panapo majaliwa wale ambao kwamba watakuwa katika bunge hili baada yetu sisi wataendeleza kuhakikisha ya kwa hawa Community Health Workers hii shirika liweze kuweza kupata fedha za kutosha, na sisi ambao kwamba tutakuwa tunashika katika sehemu nyingine za kutumikia watu tukiwa mashinani, tuweze kuwahudumikia kwa kuhakikisha ya kuwa tumeweza kupeana vifaa hivi kwa wale ambao kwamba ni community health workers katika mashinani, ili nasisitiza tena mambo kama haya, na haya yametokea siku ambao kwamba tunasoma sheria hii. Bwana Spika, kawaida yangu huwa ni mwingi wa kuzungumza ikiwa kuna jambo lolote lenye kuhusiana na jamii, lakini naomba samahani kwa wanamvita na Wakenya kwa jumla ya kuwa nitapeana nafasi yangu kwa mwingine. Si rahisi maneno kuweza kutoka baada ya kitendo kama hiki kuweza kutokea. Iliyobaki nasisitiza tena, Mwenyezi Mungu atupatie subira, na Mwenyezi Mungu awaeke pema palipo na wema. Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. Asanteni sana.
I want to, the Honorable Nasir, I want to profile my heartfelt condolences for those who have lost their lives in this tragedy. And may God help the families at this time and grant them the necessary peace to go through this. I will give the next opportunity to the Honorable Nyoro Ndindi, member for Kiharu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. And I rise to support the bill. Mr. Speaker, across all our constituencies, I am sure we know the role that the community health workers play in our society, and especially in our communities where we live. And Mr. Speaker, most of these people, what they do is actually free service to the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the oldest nations in the world, in terms of the age, the median age of the populations, there is a correlation between community health and the longevity of the people. Mr. Speaker, if you look at countries like Japan, countries like Cuba, where we have many people, where octogenarians, Mr. Speaker, are actually people of middle age in those countries, there is a clear correlation between that and the role that the community health workers play. Mr. Speaker, also economically, human beings in the economic sense, they are a resource of production. And the longer they live, the better. And the healthier they live, even the better, Mr. Speaker. Because where we have robust health services at the community level, we have people living healthy lives, and people who are blessed with many years and with longevity, if they are actually even more blessed with good health, they become, Mr. Speaker, agents of production even at their old age. And what this does is that it decreases the manner in which, Mr. Speaker, people depend on others. It reduces dependability levels. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the country like Kenya, we have many people, and especially our parents, our grandparents, they rely now on the people who are able to work. And Mr. Speaker, some of these people are immobilized because of ill health, which can well be arrested by having community health at the villages and at lower levels. In countries like the ones I've given example, you get even 90-year-old, Mr. Speaker, who are practicing as lawyers, who are practicing in various professions. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, if they can depend on themselves, even at that old age, what that does is that it decreases the dependability levels, Mr. Speaker, thereby freeing off disposable income of those who are depended on for investment. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, there is a correlation, and a huge one, between economies that does well and the health of the population and the health of their citizens. Mr. Speaker, we can argue about the issue of cost in this House. But if you are able to arrest, Mr. Speaker, if you are able to deal with health issues at the lower level, as they happen, Mr. Speaker, and at the lowest level, we actually, Mr. Speaker, decrease and cut down the cost of health in this country. And even having said that, the kind of colossal money that we read every day being misappropriated, not even outside of that sector, but within the same sector of health, that money, Mr. Speaker, is more than enough to be able to look after our community health workers, number one, in terms of recognition, number two, in terms of a stipend, Mr. Speaker, because what they do, when they do it even better, our health facilities will actually be freed. And what that means, Mr. Speaker, is that we will end up spending less in our health facilities because we have looked at the issue of health at the lower level, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, even in our country, look at the kind of money that was misappropriated through KEMSA. Look even beyond that health sector. We are now almost discussing about the bailout of Kenya Airways in this House. Mr. Speaker, some of the people who are made to carry the burden of KQ bailout in the tune of billions are people who have never been inside an aeroplane. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, some of this money in colossal sums, if it goes down there and a good proportion is allocated to the health of the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker, we can be able to look after our health workers, them personally, but also giving them the apparatus they need to conduct their service in a manner that is dignified and in an effective manner. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill, and I request actually this House, any other time we have free time to be recalled in this House, I would rather we are recalled in this House to discuss this kind of bills that touches on the common mwananchi, and even the previous bill that we just discussed about the pensioners, Mr. Speaker, and about efficient handling of the pension money of the workers of this country. With those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support.
Very well spoken, the Honorable Ndindi. I will now give this opportunity to the Honorable Badi Twalib, member for Jomvu.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipatia fursa hii. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa niaba yangu, kwa niaba ya familia yangu, kwa niaba ya wananchi wangu wa Jomvu, sote tunatuma rambirambi zetu kwa wale waliopata mkasa moto kule Mvita, na pia kwa mimi mwenyewe binafsi kutuma pole kwa ndugu yangu Abdulswamad Sharif Nasir ambaye ni mbunge wa hapo Mvita. Mheshimiwa Spika, kulingana na mswada huu, ni mswada ambao tunaunga mkono kikamilifu, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, hawa community health workers ama wahudumu hawa kwa kijamii tunawaona katika sehemu zetu wanafanya kazi kubwa sana, na ni wakati hivi sasa serikali ya Kenya kuona kuwa community health workers wanatengewa bajeti yao na wao pia kuwekewa motisha kwa ile kazi nzuri ambao wanafanya, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, watu hawa hawalipwi. Mfano Mheshimiwa Spika ambao mimi naweza kutoa kwa sehemu yangu ya Jomvu, kuna hospitali Miritini pale hivi, mainly wanaofanya kazi hapa community health workers. Jomvu Model Hospital wanaofanya kazi wengi ni community health workers. Ukiangalia Mikindani wengi wanaofanya kazi community health workers ndio wanafanya kazi ile. Mheshimiwa Spika, kukitokea jambo lolote ama mkasa ama jambo kama hili lilotokea pale Mvita, wahudumu hawa ndio watu wa kwanza ambao tunawaona wanakimbilia katika kuokoa maisha ya wananchi. Na vile vile kama tunavyoelezwa na jina lenyewe linavyo suggest, hawa wako kabisa katika mashinani kwa community, wanatembea kuangalia hata wakati huu ambao tumekumbwa na gonjwa la corona. Mheshimiwa Spika, hawa ni watu ambao walikuwa wakishikana pamoja na machief na wazee wa mitaa na wengine wengi sana, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuangalia matatizo yao yakipatikana na mtu anakimbia katika vijiji. Lakini utagundua katika watu hawa wanaofanya kazi hii, hawalipwi, hawapawi motisha, hawapawi nguvu yoyote. Wanafanya kazi katika hali ambayo ni ngumu sana, Mr. Speaker, kwa sababu vifaa hawana, na vile vile hata ile time ya kuwapatia wao taaluma ya kuangalia wataweza vipi kuface out these problems ambazo ziko katika sehemu zetu inakuwa ni shida. Wanafanya kazi in a very risky condition, Mheshimiwa Speaker. Hawa ni watu ambao leo ukienda katika hospitali yetu kuu ya Coast General Hospital, ukiangalia wengi sana ambao wanasaidia watu pale hivi ni community health workers ambao wanapeleka wagonjwa katika ile sehemu ile. Kwa hivyo kama wenzetu walivyosema, ni wakati muafaka hivi sasa ya kuona kuwa bajeti ya Kenya inatengewa pesa ambazo tunaweza kuona kwa watu hawa tunaweza kuwasaidia. Na Mheshimiwa Spika, nataka kupatiliza katika mswada huu ili pia kuzungumzia wengine kidogo. Sio community health workers peke yake, hata mabalozi, wazee wa mitaa wanafanya kazi kubwa katika sehemu yetu, lakini tukiangalia chief na dio anaonekana amefanya kazi, kumbe imefanya kazi na mzee wa mtaa na balozi ambaye yuko pale. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu kuona kuwa watu kama hawa wanaofanya kazi chini nyanjani wanaweza kupewa motisha na waweze kupewa pesa. Na pesa nyingi zinapotea katika nchi hii, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na nikisema kuwa pesa nyingi zinapotea katika nchi hii, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwa kuwa ubadhirifu wa pesa unaonekana. Na ubadhirifu ule wa pesa ambao unaonekana, hata juzi katika kiongozi wetu wa chama cha ODM alisema akichukua urais yeye atafinya katika sehemu zote zile zinapotea pesa ili kuona pesa zinaweza kufika nyanjani na kusaidia kwa watu kama hawa. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nachukua fursa hii kusema kuwa hali hii nimeiona, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu nimekuwa diwani kutoka mwaka 2007 mpaka leo nimekuwa kiongozi katika sehemu yangu. Kwa hivyo haya matatizo ndio kila siku ambao tuambiwa katika sehemu zetu. Kwa hivyo hivi sasa katika bunge hili tunataka kuwe katika rekodi kuwa jambo hili tuliweza kulichangia na serikali likatia maanani ili kuona kuwa bajeti, pesa zipatikane, watu hawa waweze kusaidiwa. Nachukua fursa hii pia Mheshimiwa Spika kumpongeza mheshimiwa ndugu yangu ambaye ameleta mswada huu, kuona kuwa ameleta mswada wa maana sana, ili mswada huu utaweza kusaidia maelfu ambao wanafanya kazi katika nchi hii nzima, ili kuona kuwa waweze nao pia kuwekwa katika hisabu ya manufaa ya kuhudumikia katika nchi hii. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa hayo ambao nimeongea kwa sababu ya muda, na mimi pia nakomea hapo. Shukrani kwa kunipa nafasi ili wenzangu waweze kuchangia juu ya jambo hili. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Very well spoken. The Honorable Yusuf Haji, member for Mandera West.
Asante sana. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Community health workers is a source of employment in this Kenya. A lot of our school leavers who are not able to move forward, they join community animal health workers. They provide services, as has been said by my colleagues, very good services indeed. And it is an employment for them, and the little that they get very little, but that little is consumed within the community, and the economy there it helps it. Community health workers are accessible, they are available, and they are affordable. Whenever you go to those rural health centers, the first person you'll get to give you service is a community health worker. He or she is always available. When doctors or nurses are posted there, they rarely work there. They appear and disappear. And therefore, the bulk of the services, the health services, is provided by these community health workers. A lot of also the professionals, they commercialize the health services. Immediately they are posted there, they open their small clinic next to where the general health service is being provided, and therefore they spend most of their time at the health centers.
Ili kupata skiza tuni hii ya mtu ni watu, bonyeza *811*961#.
Mungu akitaka kukubariki atatumia watu. Maombi yako akitaka kuyajibu atatumia mtu. Hauwezi ukakaa maisha ya kujitenga. Hapana, sababu unahitaji watu. Angalia, toka nje, wacha kukaa peke yako. Toka